The 1990s saw no shortage of exciting Cannondale frame designs. From sparkly metallic paint jobs to sparkly two-tone metallic paint jobs, snakeskin designs, flashy neon colors, you name it. Today's frame is no exception. It is the 1991 SM400 in the Mystic Blue with the White Web colorway. Despite being the entry-level mountain bike model of that year, it used the same 3.0 aluminum frame that was the standard throughout the whole range, including the top-of-the-line SM2000 models. Only difference? The SM400 came with Tange chromoly steel forks and not the aluminum pepperonis that the high-end models were equipped with. But make no mistake, in a time where steel frames were still the industry standard, this was really advanced stuff, and the frame is lightweight and the design is really sleek even by today's standards. The one we've got here has a few paint chips on the fork, some areas on the frame where the paint has rubbed off, but all in all, I'd say it's still a very decent condition. In terms of components, we have a mix of original parts and some that were added at a later stage. The wheel set, for example, is stock, and it comes with Sanson hubs and Weinmann rims. But the Shimano derailleur and the grip shifts are definitely replacement parts. I was going to build this up as a commuter, including a front basket, but ended up going down a different route in the end. But more on that later. First, we need to do some cleaning, prepping, and polishing. And the regular viewers will know what comes before cleaning. That's right, oiling. On these old bikes that are 30 plus years old, the application of penetrating oil is kind of a must to help you undo threads more easily. But sometimes even that won't do the trick. Like in this case, the pedal was really quite stuck. And it's never a good sign when the pedal after the initial movement keeps being stuck. So I applied more oil and decided to come back to it later. When I did, I noticed that the pedal must have been inserted cross-threaded because it came out all crooked. We may be able to save the crank arm, but for the time being it'll prevent us from using these cranks on this build. These bar ends are kind of cool. I really like how short they are. So they're going in the parts bin and they're definitely making a comeback sometime soon. As you guys know, I'm a big fan of these steel wool pads. They are extremely helpful when you restore an old bike. You can buy them on our website and the link will be in the video description. There's no easier way of removing old brake pad gunk and residue from your rims. They come in packs of 5 and that'll definitely get you through the restoration of an entire bike. It's never ideal when this happens, but at the same time, it doesn't need to be a reason for concern, and I'll show you how to remove that screw later on. Okay, let's go through some of the components. The derailleur we're going to replace, and I think we're going to go for this 400LX, which is more area appropriate. As you can see, I took it all apart. So we're going to service this one, or it's in the process of being serviced. It's going to get new grease and I'm going to put it back together. These brake levers we are going to keep. Really like those. This is kind of cool. So it's the bottom bracket cable guide, and as you can see, it's got Cannondale branding on it. Not like anyone would ever see this. Completely useless, but cool. The bell, I think we're gonna use. This is the one brake that pulled out the brake boss. If that ever happens to you, no need to panic. It's actually pretty easy to remove. Remove it like this. And pop this back in the frame. For the pedals, I was thinking we'll use these. They're used, but they spin really nicely. Same for this one. Just need to clean those a little bit more or polish them, make them look a little nicer, and then they can go on the bike. And for the frame itself, you can see I removed the bottom bracket. Other than that, I removed all the screws here. This spins really nicely, so there's no need to do any work here. Obviously, we have some rusty spots here that need some prepping before we can go polish. When it comes to rust converter, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one, because as you can see, the brush here is pretty all over the place, so it's really difficult to apply this stuff only to the areas where you want it. So if you're looking for a rust converter, I can not recommend this one. But it's one of those things, until you've started using it, you don't know what the brush is going to be like. And then you're sat there with a bottle that lasts you for an entire lifetime. So, but yeah, if you see that in the background, don't go buying that one. There's some red paint here. There's a red stripe. A bit difficult for the camera to pick up, but I think you can see it. So, scratch repair. Much better. This is pretty rough here. It's even like a little, I don't know what you would call it, like a little ridge that you could probably cut yourself if you tried. So I'm gonna carefully try and file this down just a little bit to make the surface smoother and also improve the look. Okay, frame's even more lightweight now. In case you're wondering why I didn't take out the left side of the bottom bracket, it's one of those nylon cups that really like to break when you try and remove them. And since there was no need to remove it, I just left it there. It's been a few hours since I applied the rust converter, and as you can see, all these rusty spots are now black. And now that it's dry, we're gonna polish over it. So this is just to rub off any excess polish before we coat everything with the frame wax. Probably not super necessary, but I like to do it. I really like the whitewall tires that were on here, so we're going to stick with that and use white-walled road cruisers. Since we don't have a second one of these in the front, which would allow us to use this smaller attachment hole, we have to go for the axle solution. But the problem is that we can't get these to line up because of this top part here, or I should say because of the shape of this dropout. It's pretty wide up here, and this top area blocks this nut. This is permanently attached here, which means the basket is not compatible with this frame. Now that the basket won't fit, I am starting to reevaluate the plan for this build. This is the stem and handlebar combination that I wanted to put on here. It's a pretty long stem with swept back bars, which I think with the basket here would have looked really nice. It's also, like in terms of the riding position, would have made sense as like an overall concept for this build. But now I'm thinking maybe we need to go down a more sporty route and replace this more commuter-oriented setup with something a bit more sporty. As you can see here, the stem is much shorter, which leads to more direct steering. And instead of these swept back bars, I would use regular riser bars, resulting in a much more sporty riding position, obviously. And as I was thinking about that, I also started to second guess the tire choice as well. And as you can see, I tried out some Maxxis. Probably easier to see that way. So I think we might need to ditch the whitewall tires and go for these Maxxis DTH. Obviously yellow and blue is always a great combination. If we're going for more of a sporty build, DTH might be a good choice. So let me switch up the tires and then we'll take it from there. So I only switched out the rear wheel for now. So you can see a bit of a comparison here. Kind of like both, to be honest with you. But like I said, I think where we're taking this build, I feel like the Maxxis DTH is the better choice. I'll swap out the front tire as well. Front tire is mounted as well, so onto the stem. Since we can't reuse the crank that was on here because the pedal is stuck, I decided that we're using a 400LX crankset, so that matches the derailleur that we have on there. So I switched this out again. I felt like the black cap kind of made it look like a dartboard with like a black circle, a silver circle, and then a black circle again. And I think this looks a bit cleaner. So the thing with these old Diacomp cantilever brakes is that the two sides are really quite different, which is not normally the case with Shimano cantilever brakes. The only thing that you need to pay attention to there is which side the springs go. But here, as you can see, like all the parts are different, with longer springs on one side than the other. But the good news is it looks much more intimidating than it actually needs to be, because there's only one way that you can put this together. As you can see, like, the hole here is bigger, so it needs this filler, let's just call it that. Then we use the smaller one, which is the only one that will fit over this larger ring. Then we put the spring in here. And then the thing with these two is that they normally these springs are being held by the holes on the frame on the brake bosses, but here the setup is a little bit different. So you put these on, and so basically the frame, the brakes, they within themselves you can adjust the spring tension, and I'll show you that on the frame. So after making sure that everything is greased up, we'll just put our little brake sandwich. There we go. Pop our spring in here. So these now work like any Shimano's, but now we have very different resistance on both sides. Well, actually I happen to get those pretty similar, but we need a bit more tension on over here. All we need to do, basically, remember this little mount part that is part of the brake itself. Basically, we're just gonna adjust the position, like the angle that is sitting. So I'll just loosen the screw a little bit, turn that mount down a little bit, tighten it again, and so we have more resistance here. Now the fact that you can't do this on that side means that you basically just need to match the resistance level on the other side, and this seems pretty good. So we're gonna attach the cable and see where we are. I showed this brake pad alignment tool in the last video, and you guys really seemed to like it. It was temporarily sold out on our website, but we got a restock, so it's available again, and yeah, linked in the video description. So when mounting the basket didn't work, I felt like these pedals wouldn't fit anymore either. But now, with the stem and handlebars that we've chosen, I think they're kind of reminiscent of 80s mountain bikes with their high-rise stems and high-rise handlebars. Having something a bit more old school looking might actually be the better choice than the more modern all silver pedals. This seat that we're using is originally from a Cannondale bike, but from 1992. I felt like it was a very good match on this bike. And that just leaves me to say, if you enjoyed this video, why not leave a like? Oh, and next week we're rebuilding a 1993 Cannondale M300, so if you don't want to miss that, make sure you're subscribed. If you enjoyed this Cannondale rebuild, why not check out our full Cannondale playlist, or just watch one of these other 2 videos that I'm sure you're gonna love.